All right, this is my video. This is my entry for my quiz for on algae for botany. And the first question is explain the major characteristics that differentiate brown algae, red algae, and green algae. So with brown algae, you have the chloroplast pigments, chlorophyll A, chlorophyll C, carotenoids, and fucoxanthin. The last one was to help with photosynthesis underwater. And the food storage form for brown algae is, I think it's narin in the vacuoles. And then the cell wall components are cellulose and algin. And then for red algae, the chloroplast pigments are chlorophyll A, psychobilins or physobilins, something like that, and physiocerantharin. I think that's how it's pronounced. I have trouble pronouncing that one. And then the food storage form for red algae is Floridian starch in the cytosol. So, yeah. And then the cell wall components for red algae is cellulose and agar. And then for green algae, the chloroplast pigments are chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, and carotenoids. The food storage form is starch in the plastids. And then the cell wall components are cellulose, hemicellulose, and then there's pectin. And those are the major characteristics that differentiate those types of algae. And then the second part of the first question is explain what characteristics green algae has in common with land plants. So green algae is characterized as photosynthetic and eukaryotic, which so are land plants. That's it's pretty much what they share, and also they both use chlorophyll in some way. And then number 2 requires diagrams for zygotic meiosis, gametic meiosis, and alternation of generations. All right. I printed out the ones that I drew. They're kind of they're a little faded. I think my printer needs new ink. But for this first one is zygotic meiosis. It starts with a multicellular haploid individual that produces gametes, and then fertilization comes into play when there's another set of gametes being introduced there, and then those two gametes through fertilization produce a zygote, and through meiosis, and then that zygote happens to be diploid, and through meiosis the zygote is separated into haploid cells, and then those haploid cells, through a process, goes right back to the multicellular haploid individual. And then the process starts all over again with zygotic meiosis. And then with gametic meiosis, you still start with the multicellular diploid individual, and then through meiosis there's a gamete is produced. And then, of course, with the introduction of another gamete, through fertilization, a zygote is produced. Yeah, kind of like the first one. And then from there, it just goes right back to the multicellular diploid individual. which is different actually. I'm sorry. This one is diploid. This one is haploid. So it skips the whole. So it's and well, yeah, meiosis is in a different place. It's in the beginning instead of in the end here. And then alternation of generations. You start with spores, which is different from the other two, and then with spores they mature into gametophytes, and those gametophytes turn into gametes. Another set of gametes is introduced, and through fertilization, again, a zygote is produced. That zygote turns into an embryo. That embryo turns into a sporophyte, and through meiosis, it goes right back to the spores, making it a whole cycle. So yeah, those are zygotic meiosis, gametic meiosis, and alternation of generations. Not meiosis, alternation of generations. That's my question 2. And then question 3 is algae a plant? Why or why not? I put algae is a plant in my opinion, because it contains chlorophyll and it photosynthesizes. They also contain a cell wall, and plants are derived from an algae ancestor that if it was alive today, it would be green. It would be a green algae. So they share common ancestry. Like they share common ancestry. They're both eukaryotic. They both photosynthesize. They both contain chlorophyll. And that's basically what makes up a plant. So I mean, why not? Why can't algae be a plant? I mean, I know other than the reasons that were listed in the video, but in my opinion, I think algae is a plant. So yeah, that is my entry for the quiz on algae for botany, and everything from this presentation was from the video. I mean, well, from the lecture video. So yeah, thank you.